My parents cut me off because I pursued my dream of building my own company, but when my brother lost his job, they asked me to give him an important position in my company. I refused, and now they are spreading rumors about me, something I was able to forget because my parents were often telling me that my brother was outperforming me academically and that I had to step up if I wanted to play on the same team as him. After being accepted into a prestigious college, he rose to the position of youngest vice president in the company's history. 5 years ago, he had been employed there since his graduation, making a sufficient living for himself from the start. However, once he achieved history by rising to the position of youngest vice president in his organization, I found it impossible to match his posh corporate career. Furthermore, my parents were always shoving it in my face. To be honest, though, I didn't think working from 9 to 5 was appealing because I'm sure life offers other benefits. However, my dream has always been to start my own business. 5 years prior, I had even mastered the definition of the word after accumulating some experience and learning a little bit about the field I wanted to work in. I made the decision to launch my own company. At last, I would create these sleek, contemporary automotive accessories myself. I decided to talk to my parents about it first because, despite their behavior toward my brother, I had assumed that they would want the best for me as well because, well, they were my parents. I had invested enough time in research and development and had a solid business plan to move forward with. I therefore made the decision to inform them of it after they had celebrated my brother's new employment with a party. I went up to them personally 2 days after the party and explained my idea to them. I was hoping for some kind of response from them, but all I got was a laugh and an admission that I was playing a practical joke on them, since it was embarrassing that after all these years of self-education, this was my big idea for my next business. I assured them I was serious, but they said they would encourage me not to quit my work because they would feel ashamed to present their son as a failure. They knew my business would fail from the start because I had the abilities to succeed. Furthermore, they did not want me to fail as badly as they did my brother. I should thus just continue doing what I'm doing now. I felt deeply insulted. They indicated that I was free to do as I pleased, but that I would still be responsible for the repercussions. When I chose to argue with them and tell them that I was going to move forward with the business whether or not they supported me, they warned me that I would be a disgrace to them and that they would have to remove me out of their lives if I pursued my business plan. They were aware of it beforehand. Additionally, they informed me that they were tired of always introducing their sons. One of them is a 25-year-old vice president at a prestigious company, and the other is still figuring out his life. They had been considering this conversation with me for a while anyhow, and at last, they informed me that I had 2 options. Either I could keep advancing in my current position and not embarrass them, or I could do whatever I wanted and look foolish. But then I would lose them. I believe what I did is quite clear. I made the decision to remove them from my life, and I never got in touch with them again. He clearly chose our parents' side over mine, which is okay with me, and I haven't spoken to him since. I didn't want anything to do with him from the start as he was too conceited anyhow. I have faith in vehicles because, well, I've worked with them for a very long time, and that's where my company idea originated. I made the decision to enter blindly and simply disprove my parents, as I knew that this was something that many people had wanted. I left my job to focus on achieving my objective. I should not have said that with such pride because I now realize it was a risky move, though I sincerely wouldn't advise it to anyone. It did end up working out for me because I was able to launch my own company after a few months of getting some investors on board. At first, it was difficult. I was essentially living paycheck to paycheck and relied solely on word-of-mouth advertising to spread the word about my firm, which helped me attract an increasing number of clients. Then, after a year and a half or so, things really got going and there was no turning back. I'm feeling very at ease right now. My own apartment is mine. It's not that bad. I have a wonderful car, I live in a wonderful neighborhood, and I genuinely have everything I had initially imagined. While I wouldn't describe myself as a millionaire, I am happy enough with my life to claim that I haven't lived up to my parents' expectations. Thus, I would say that I'm quite pleased with myself for having been able to refute them. It's not worth it, and I'm so delighted about it that I don't even feel the need to include their face. In any case, I haven't spoken to them in the last 5 years. In fact, I married my 8-year girlfriend, and we have been together for 2 years. We also learned that she was pregnant last month. Despite all of my achievements, I have never made an effort to get in touch with my parents. They are aware of my location. They can ask any family they know where I live, so they can pay me a visit. They can do it literally. Nevertheless, I am aware that they are well-versed in every aspect of my life, as I have maintained communication with our family members who inform me that although my parents frequently inquire about me, they have never made an effort to reach out to me. I suppose that's how they handle things. Nevertheless, they eventually contacted me last week and asked if I would be open to meeting. After talking to my wife about it, she expressed her desire for me to investigate further. I was unsure of what to anticipate because they had not made any mention of it in the mail they had sent me. Nevertheless, I went to see them at their home, and when I arrived, they greeted me quite kindly. But I could tell something was wrong. They had never treated me so well, not even when I used to live with them. I could tell they were up to something even as they were chit-chatting with me, and eventually, they addressed the big issue. They informed me that they had learned of my company's success and had extended an invitation for me to receive congratulations. They said they were happy I had been able to disprove them and that their original mistrust had been dispelled without offering to apologize or anything that was pleasant. Then, I just smiled, unsure of what to say. Subsequently, they informed me that Craig had, in fact, had a quite unfortunate few months. It seems that his business had not been doing well, as evidenced by the widespread layoffs and the firing of all high management, including him. He had, therefore, done nothing but sit at home for the last 4 months. My parents informed me that although he had been attempting to find employment elsewhere, he was feeling a bit down about his experience and unsure of what to do after spending so much time at the same company. Since I was unable to stop them, I decided to just let them continue because I was curious as to why they were carrying on this conversation, even though I found it incredibly puzzling that they were discussing him. They asked me if I would be willing to hire my brother after a while, explaining that he was now too depressed to apply for jobs on his own and that all the offers he was receiving were below his pay grade. He did therefore require something, and my parents wanted to get in touch with me to ask whether I would be ready to provide him with a well-paying job in my firm where he could also contribute his own knowledge. When I was questioned about it, I told them I needed some time to consider it and that I would let them know my decision later because I was at a loss for words. I didn't intentionally say yes because I wasn't sure how to react to that, given that they had previously had the chance to get in touch with me but had never done so. I should have recognized that they weren't approaching me for no apparent reason. They appeared to be content with who they are and probably expected me to say yes. But after returning home, I gave it some thought and talked it over with my wife before deciding to decline. She doesn't really work for my company, she works for a bank. But she did tell me that since this was a professional setting, whatever I said would be accepted. She therefore wished to stay out of this. That was the right thing to do if I really thought that I wouldn't be able to collaborate properly with my brother. In any case, she didn't believe my parents' attempt to make amends with me had been sincere, so I had no motivation to comply with their request. I didn't owe them a job, after all. I hadn't even agreed to help out. I knew that if I declined, they would seize the chance to paint me as the villain. Therefore, I had no intention of telling them about this. I now make an effort to avoid conflict. I even disregarded their daily texts asking me what my response was. When they started asking me that, however, 2 days later they finally gave me a call and demanded that I respond. I informed them that I had given it a lot of thought and that I had come to the conclusion that I could not get along with Craig and that I did not want him working for me. They went utterly crazy at me since we'd never gotten along, and I didn't think I owed them or him even to hire him. They erupted in rage at me for everything they had done for me as a child, including raising me and providing for all of my wants. When I said that, and now when they were expecting me to repay them for their favor, I was ignoring them and acting as though I owed them nothing since I literally depended on them. I felt that it was unjust to state that they hadn't done all of that for me. In addition, I believed that it would be illegal for them to simply refuse to do that for me. Furthermore, that wasn't even the main point. I made an effort to explain to them that the sole reason I did not want Craig in my business was that I simply could not see us getting along. Therefore, I didn't think that this was the reason they needed to act that way and yell at me. In addition, we haven't communicated for the last 5 years. They had no right to expect that I would put up with them after they had informed me that they did not trust me and had not even invested in my company. They kept screaming at me, telling me that the only reason they had gotten in touch with me was because they thought that after 5 years I would have finally moved on. Even though I was finally getting well, I was still being petty, harboring old grievances, and unwilling to support my own family. They told me that Craig was my brother, and that I owed it to him to support him now that he was in danger. They even said that if I had been in his position, he would have done the same for me. They informed me that I owed it to them to help them in the same way that they had supported me if my business had failed. After a while, when things got really hot and unclear, I told them that I really didn't want to talk to them any longer. I blocked their numbers and hung up. My parents said things that have left me feeling very confused about how I feel like they would have supported me if I had been in Craig's position. After talking to my wife about it, she claims that they only said these things because I wasn't in his position and that they are attempting to trick me into not falling for it because they haven't even stated they're sorry yet and they still want me to assist him. I know she's correct. When we were youngsters, my brother had never shown me kindness and everyone would continually pick on me. However, I can't shake the persistent sense of guilt I have and I simply feel strange about everything. I defer passing on hiring my brother following his layoff from a corporate position. Update: I really appreciate your reply to my post. It's been a while since my last conversation with my folks, and I realized that what I did wasn't all that terrible. It's not like my brother will never find employment again. To be honest, simply put, I'm not interested in working with him. My parents are not happy about it even though I previously indicated that I had discussed it with my wife and the two of us had chosen to stick to our choice. They've been making it seem like I've always been jealous of my brother, which is why I was excited about the chance to harm my family. Since they've been texting every single relative we have about this, I don't even know why they are taking this so personally. They're not even talking to them about it. It's simply being brought up. They're actually making a special effort to text them about me. Their behavior is so absurd that I believe it's an attempt to get my attention, but I refuse to give it to them. They have been blocked and I won't talk to them about this or unblock them no matter what they do. I received screenshots from a few of my relatives who made the effort to contact me. I've replied to them and given them the whole rundown. It's not as if they were unaware for the previous 5 years. My parents and I have avoided speaking to one another. When we see each other at family gatherings, we had a tense relationship as most people knew, but this is just going too far attempting to manipulate them so that I appear to be the villain. Nevertheless, most of my relatives assured me that I didn't need to worry about my parents after I addressed matters with them. Considering that they were aware of everything that had previously occurred, they would not turn against me. They also understand that my parents are exaggerating at the moment. That's why I'm pleased with it at the moment. And to be honest, I don't think I have time to worry about these things right now because my wife is expecting. I had planned to make the announcement in a few weeks, but I guess I'm going to do it sooner instead, if only to let my parents know that I'm not worth their trouble. Though we're not sure if it will succeed or not, my parents are extremely callous and might even try to bother us despite knowing that my wife is pregnant. I think it's a fantastic idea, definitely not impossible for them in my opinion. Second update. Hi there. A few days ago, my spouse and I announced our pregnancy on social media. I haven't spoken to my folks in around 10 days. My child would suffer as a result of what I was doing to my family, according to an email I received from an unknown sender. After the majority of my relatives contacted me to congratulate me, that's when I realized that this was my parents. No one else would have dared to utter something as awful, therefore it had to be them. Even before my baby is born, people are already wishing us harm simply because I declined to assist my brother. It's not even as if Craig had asked for my assistance directly, in which case I would have given it some thought. However, my parents are the ones who want me to hire him. That's not the purpose, though. I don't think it would have given them the right to say such things if I had done some really bad things. I kept that email a secret from my wife since I knew it would just make her feel worse and I wouldn't want that to occur. Even though she is still early in her pregnancy, reading comments like these depresses me greatly. I decided to handle things by myself. I want to talk to my parents face to face at their place. The only way I could communicate with them was to visit them because I didn't want to unblock them. However, they declined to even hold open the door to admit me most likely because they knew how awful what they had done was. I completely lost my cool when I spoke to them from outside their home. They had no right to say such things. I yelled at them, especially considering how they had treated me for the previous 5 years and how they had acted with me throughout my entire life. Just because I was somewhat successful did not mean that I was accepted into the family. They'd never made Craig do anything like this, but now they wanted a piece of it, wanted to share my brother's success with me. When I was having trouble, they didn't even deserve to talk to me at this time because, to be honest, they hadn't supported me at all while I was in need. I informed them that their attempts were futile and would just cause me to become more aloof from them, resulting in them saying goodbye to any assistance from me once they retired. I also stated that I never wanted to speak to them again and that even if they apologized, I would not forgive them in the future. Furthermore, they won't ever get to see their grandchild. I felt so glad to have said it, left, and returned home. Sincerely, I had been repressing these feelings for a while ever since they began to annoy me. However, it was now imperative that I respond to them appropriately. I don't want to upset my wife, so I haven't told her about this interaction yet, and I don't think I will until the pregnancy is over. Hello, my parents decided to take a step back and remain quiet for a bit after we had a face-to-face conversation last week. A few family members and close friends attended a pregnancy announcement party I had at my place, and although I had anticipated them to do anything, they chose not to bother. I therefore reasoned that perhaps they had finally moved on from the entire incident. I was attempting the same thing this morning when, while at work, I got a call from Craig. That was extremely odd because 5 years ago he completely stopped communicating with us, and I had no idea what he wanted to talk to me about. For a brief moment, I worried that he might try to talk to me in a similar way to how my parents did and ask that I give him a job, meaning I would have to go through the whole process all over again. I didn't answer his first call, but after that, he called me several more times and even sent me a message informing me that he had to talk to me right away because it was urgent. He assured me that he would not ask for anything from me, so I didn't need to worry. He claimed he was only looking to talk about something that had been on his mind for a while. We had a conversation today after I chose to pick up the phone. He claimed to have been quite melancholy for the previous few weeks, which is why he had not been talking to anyone and had been ignoring all of the emails and texts he had been getting, even ones from his family. Only recently, when he had examined those messages at last, did he discover that everyone was talking about how unreasonable it was for our parents to demand that I hire him for a position in my firm, given that they had never treated me properly. Craig was really perplexed since, despite our parents' repeated conversations over the previous few weeks, they had said nothing concerning the events occurring within the family. After reading those texts, he had asked our parents if they had taken any similar action. They had flatly denied it, stating that they had no idea what the message's contents actually meant. However, it seemed to him that they were lying. He had told our parents about his employment predicament and how unhappy he was, so he had called me instead to get the truth. Furthermore, he had never once expressed a desire for my assistance, so he was baffled as to why they had decided to coerce me into reaching out to him and offering him a job, something he had never even asked for. I chose to give him the truth after giving it some thought since I felt that he should know the precise nature of our parents' behind-his-back activities. I told him everything my parents had told me, including the fact that he was not in a good place right now and they did not want him to suffer, and that after they had told me his tale, they had told me that I needed to offer him a job and support my family. I explained to him that although at first they might have really wanted to encourage and assist him in getting his life back on track, in the end, it just turned into harassment, and I was not cool with that. I expressed my sincere regret to Craig over his job, acknowledging that it held great significance for him and that he had contributed significantly to the organization in his role, making his sudden termination understandable. Craig appeared to realize, though, that I had turned down my parents' request because we had never gotten along and would not make a good team. He expressed to me his lack of interest in collaborating with me. He wasn't trying to be disrespectful, but he wasn't in the right frame of mind to be working with anyone at the moment, and he was purposefully taking a break. My parents gave the impression that he had no offers worth considering, but in reality, he had. He was just withholding them because you needed time to yourself, and he made that decision on his own. Not that he wasn't offended, it was just that it didn't factor into his choice to take a leave of absence. Though we were no longer on the best of terms, I thought that he could still handle it, so I let him vent to me for a while because he sounded quite frustrated. Following a thorough discussion of this, he informed me that he was furious with what our parents had done for him, as it created the impression that he was desperate and that he was attempting to persuade my parents to push me to get him employment. Because he hadn't done anything of the kind, it was just incredibly perplexing. He then apologized to me for everything I had to go through and said he would talk to our parents about it. I found that to be incredibly mature of him and felt that he had matured considerably over the previous 5 years, particularly following his job layoff. It seems that he realized that nothing is permanent, so perhaps he shouldn't have been so conceited, and maybe that was a lesson hidden from view. Nevertheless, even if we weren't able to resolve the issue, we still had a productive conversation, and for me, that's sufficient. I spoke with Craig over the phone a few days ago, and following our conversation, he promised to tell our parents about what they had done. He went ahead and did so, but it did not go well, as my parents became very defensive and said that they were only trying to support him because they did not believe it was a good idea for him to take some time off and that he should start looking for a better job right away. Craig accused them of trying to control his life from the start and never letting him make any decisions on his own, even as an adult. This led to a heated argument between them. Naturally, my parents were offended by that and began listing all the things they had done for him, things that were quite standard that parents do for their children. I'm not sure why they always think they have the right to boast about how much of a favor they did for us. You didn't have to do it as a favor. Following a very heated argument, Craig stopped talking to them, and who do they think is to blame for all of that? Yes, you understand, once more, they are blaming me for everything. I just don't get how I can be made out to be the victim of almost every circumstance they find themselves in. This time, there were no arguments between them. Instead, they just chose to post about it on Facebook. Fortunately for me, though, every one of our family members quickly stepped in to support me and exposed my parents' bad behavior. They reminded them that, in a way, they had been bad parents not only to me, but also to Craig because they had been trying to control and put him under pressure, particularly during a very trying time when they ought to have been providing him with moral and emotional support. Instead, they had been trying to undermine him even more and paint him as the villain. They chose to remove that post and ban every member of my family after getting a lot of feedback from our relatives. In summary, they've been shunned by almost everyone, and I am extremely grateful for that. Craig and I are going to work on improving our relationship going forward. He has apologized to me for mistreating me in the past, but my wife is the most significant thing in my life at the moment, and becoming a father excites me much.